Hello, and welcome to part two of our conversation with Margaret DiMarino. We began our conversation by discussing how our meditation practice in part one affected us. Margaret also shared many basic and easy tips for being mindful and coping with stress.
So now I'm going to put Deborah and Angelina on the spot. And I'm going to ask them each to give me a word about how they felt while they were doing that.
I felt a sense of calm come over me. And so much so that that ended up being my word. Calm was my word.
And how about you, Angelina?
Same. I felt it just brings down the temperature quite a bit. Very relaxing.
And that only thank you. I'm glad that worked. And it only took mere moments. Now, you don't have to go through anything that elaborate. You don't have to have a bell from outside of Mount Fuji. You can download an app. There's different apps on your phone called Mindfulness Bell. Or if you just Google either on iPhone, the Play Store, and on Google, on Android, there's all sorts of like little bells that will chime. You can chime it yourself by pressing it, or they'll just chime at random while you're studying or working. And whenever you hear it, you just take a moment to breathe. Now, I also have something I call the 3 breaths per rule, which means 3 breaths per anything per meal. Stop and take 3 mindful breaths. One thing you can do with food, so we don't pack on the pandemic pounds. I tried this a few times and it seems to work because so often we eat out of stress or we eat in a hurry. So take your finger after you've washed your hands, of course, and just circle lightly around the rim of your plate. And what that will do is it will tell you to eat the food inside the plate. Put your focus on the food. I myself practice eating always sitting. And I'm always surprised at how much time I shove something into my mouth when I'm standing up. And then I don't chew. I'm like, oh, it's in your mouth. You got to sit down before you eat. That's another way to foster awareness throughout your day. And it's the same thing if you're studying. If you have a big study session coming up, you can do the same thing. You can kind of take a couple deep breaths, really focus on studying. The same thing if you go to a lecture, an online lecture, you can just study. Not study, take those breaths and really be focused into whatever the teacher's saying. And it's going to help you a lot. And I love what Angelina said about bringing the temperature down, because when we are stressed, studies will show that we don't retain as much information. Or when we're calm, we're going to have a better level of focus, a better level of absorption of the information that we want. It's fine to use, listen, it's fine to use adrenaline, that pressure. That's a little different, like putting a deadline, studying at the last minute and get hyper focused. That's a little different. That means you're so highly concentrated that nothing else comes in. That's the kind of student I was, to tell you the truth, and I was a pretty good student. But gentle. If I were to do it again and study again, I would always start with a little meditation practice. And by meditation, again, remember, one deep breath in and out. Cleansing can be a meditation. It doesn't have to be anything long. Certainly, if you go to YouTube, you're going to find tons of, meditations for studying. I once had a Buddhist person tell me that in order to really study well, in order to do well on a test, there's 3 things. Everybody thinks it's like, how well did you study? Well, number one, it's like, what kind of condition are you in? Because you could have been studying really, really well, but you're so stressed out now you got the flu. No one's getting COVID in this audience, nobody. But you got the flu, say, for example, and then, you can't do well on the test because you can't even concentrate. And then the second one is, I think she said, was like, how relaxed are you? How relaxed are you? Like really, if you're stressing through the test, you're going to convince yourself you don't know the answers when you really do. It's like looking for something that you've been looking for hours, and then you give up and then you find it right away, because when you're so stressed, you're blind to what you're looking for. So that's the second thing. It's like relaxing. How relaxed are you when you go? And then the third thing is, how fortunate are you? How cued in are you to the energy that you just know the questions that are asked? There might have been 500 questions your teacher could have asked, but the 100 she asked were the ones you knew. And so part of that's being in rhythm. part of that's being not fighting, like by being in rhythm. It's a Buddhist term, but it means like, you're really connected. You took the time to be mindful, to connect with the planet around you, the people around you, so that you're not rushing and not seeing things. You're really in a good space where your timing is fortuitous, your interactions with people, you think, oh, I need a plumber for my house. Well, maybe you guys don't. Maybe your parents take care of that. But for me, oh, I need a plumber for your house. And then somebody just mentions that they had a plumber come over and you're like, wait a minute, give me the number. It's that kind of timing that happens when we're really in rhythm, when we're really, our mind's not racing. Once anxiety takes over, we're not in rhythm anymore. So listen, there's medication for anxiety. And if that's something you suffer from, lots of people do. Whenever I ask that in class, I'd say 50% of my students say that they have some form of anxiety. It's very common. That's why, there's that you can ask a doctor about that, or see a therapist or whatever. But still, there's a lot that we can do for everyday anxiety, that's not clinical anxiety. Just, taking moments of mindfulness, taking moments to just connect. One thing I'd like to, and I hesitate to tell you to do this because it's not the right time of year, but there is something called earthing or grounding, and it's just simply walking on the earth with your bare feet. So that's why I don't want you to go out and do it in the snow. But walk on the earth in your bare feet, and it restores your energy, the electrons. You absorb the electrons of the earth, and it's you can Google it, earthing or grounding. And I remember I had this one workshop I was giving. I was practically falling asleep, and I did that for 5 minutes in my backyard, and I came back in and I was like, woohoo, so I guess I don't need Red Bull, I guess I can just ground and earth. But those are some other techniques that you can do, the morning routine, the breathing, the meditating, grounding, and then even standing up. Like there's lots of studies that show that if we stand up for, like, I've heard different things, but most of the time they say about 5 minutes every hour. Because I don't know about you guys, but once I start sitting at my desk and working, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours can go by. And then unless I'm hungry, I'll probably just sit there forever and grow cobwebs. So one of the things, if you train yourself to stand up, I think that's really a good thing. And studies show that even for sitting for long periods of time, I'm sorry, I'm reading from something. Even if exercising regularly, that can increase our risks for cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and some types of cancer. And our environment has a big influence on the amount of time we're sitting. And so just get up and stand up. You can set a little reminder on your phone. For those of you who are studying, switch locations. I'm constantly switching locations. I have my office here, but sometimes I have a sunroom I go and give workshops from. Just switch your locations of where you're studying, because each area has a little different types of energy. And then again, here's another thing you can do just to get some, stand-up time. Just go to the bathroom furthest away from you. So if there's one right outside your door, go to the one on a different level. If you have a house that's big enough to have more than one bathroom. And then that exercise dice that I told you about, I think that's really good. I'm kind of an all or nothing thinker with exercise. It's like I was really bad before with the gym. I would be like, if I'm not going to 2 hours a day, I'm not going at all. And now it's like, I'm lucky to get one in. But I still do. Most days I get an hour in. But I will say that, like, just even doing little bits of exercise, there's so much science that shows that that's a really healthy thing. So that exercise dice, and if you don't want to spend $10 for an exercise dice, put a bunch of index cards in an empty Kleenex box with different exercises you like to do, and then just pick one out and do that exercise and commit to it. Because especially for you jocks out there or you athletic people, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. My gym fitness director told us the other day that if we go 3 weeks without exercise, and we lose something like 10 years of agility. Now the good news is we can get it back fairly quickly, but I know myself, I think the most I've ever been in recent history, probably in the last 20 years, is like maybe I've had some sports injuries, and so maybe I've gone 2 or 3 weeks. And I feel like a totally different person. We need the chemicals that exercise does for our brain. And so for those people who are like, hey, I'm not an exercise person, I'm allergic to exercise, you can always take a short walk. You can just get up and move. You can you can turn on Spotify or Pandora and play a song and just dance to it. Like, close the curtains, make sure no one's looking, anything like that. A 5 minute a 5 minute song on Spotify. There's lots of really cool things that you can do, like don't be all or nothing, just do something, because everything is going to get the juices
All
flowing.
of these different ideas and strategies, I think, are so helpful. And I think one of the big takeaways, for me at least, is
Thank you.
that mindfulness does not have to take a long time.
Yes.
Meditations do not have to take a long time. It could be just, like you said, just breathing in a nice cleansing breath. So I think people get scared away by, I don't have time for that. So, they're heading into the finals right now. They are stressed out. They're on social media all the time. What would you say to them about pitfalls about being on social media right around this time?
Yeah. Basically, I put myself on a news diet. So once a day, I check my stream, or my whatever, my news thread that I have. And as soon as I start, like even with Facebook, as soon as I start feeling any angst, I'm off it. So if I'm reading Facebook and, I'm looking at the highlight reel of someone's life and I'm like, oh, they have, off it, off it, off it. Really pay attention to your emotions. And as soon as you start feeling anything negative, get off it right away. The news will filter itself to you. If you want a burst of good news, go to goodnewsnetwork.com. Goodnewsnetwork.com. That's only good news articles. Realize that the earth and the planet and people in it have existed for many gazillions of years. We happen to be in the middle of a pandemic now, but the earth will heal itself. This is not the first pandemic. We will ultimately all be okay. So with your stress levels, and if you have stress levels and you're listening to this, just really limit. I've had so many students go on a news diet or a social media diet, and it really helps tremendously. You don't have to get off social media forever and ever, but maybe set some guidelines for yourself. Like, I'm going to only go on once a day, or I'm only going to go on once every 2 days or once a week. And it will really change the energy of your life. And also, if you're going to go on, don't go on at night. My sister, the doctor, said, never give old people bad news at night, but I would take the word old out of that sentence. Never give anybody bad news at night. You want to sleep well. And speaking of sleeping well, really work on your sleeping. Meditation can help. There's many guided visualizations for sleeping. I have a Himalayan salt lamp, which I love. I mean, when I put that on, you can get them for $10 at any kind of store or whatever. It really seems the salt in the ear that's kind of melted in seems to really help a lot. You can do exercise, like I said, the bed yoga, but there's a ton of things. But you're absolutely right, Debbie. It doesn't take a lot to meditate. You can meditate for 3 deep breaths. There's something called a doorway meditation. So every time you enter a doorway, you're entering a different kind of energy in the home. So if you go to your office to your bathroom, that's a totally different kind of energy. You go from your bedroom to your kitchen, totally different kind of energy, different kind of focus. But if you can even take 1 deep breath as you go through each doorway, it's impossible to do because there's just so many doorways we pass. But every so often, just do a deep breath as you pass through a doorway. That really helps a lot. It's also something called segment intending. So, like, for example, this would be, I think, really relevant to anybody that is going into a different segment of the day. If you're going to study, like you've been doing something else and now it's your time to study, start with a little routine, like do a couple stretches. I'm a big one on stretching. Stretch a little bit, maybe drink a glass of water. And I know people are going to think I'm crazy with this one, but take a little piece of chocolate and eat it as slowly as possible. Because what that does is it gives you pleasure, and it gives you the benefit of slowing down so you're not frantic. It gets rid of your anxiety and it gives you pleasure. It's a twofer. I mean, how can you fight that? But just eat a little piece of chocolate mindfully. Like, don't just gobble it down, like maybe a little piece of Dove, and that really helps a lot with the stress level. Did I answer your question, Debbie, or did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, that was perfect, I think. Yes.
Oh, thank
Very
you.
good. Very helpful. Thank you, Margaret.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. And I really hope that all this stuff is really helpful to everyone. There are different kinds of things along that idea, which is you can do something, a technique called stop. And S stands for just stop and physically stop wherever you are. So if you find yourself stretching, just stop. And then T is for take a breath. Just take a breath. And nice deep breath, and then observe and look around you. And there's like, you can, what are you seeing? What can you observe? What are you seeing in your surroundings? Just like label it like, oh, there's a water pitcher there that's good for Christmas. There's a disco ball. There really is a disco ball. It's a long story, but it's a small one. In my office, I use it as a prop for another course, but whatever you're observing, and then proceed. So proceed with purpose. So set an intention. So let's say you were studying and you're starting to get frantic, like you were just getting a headache. Then you can say, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to take a breath. And then I'm going to observe. Okay, so I'm going to observe, like, I'm a little cluttered right now. I'm going to observe that my heart is a little racy. I'm going to observe that my mind is like jumping around. And then I'm going to take maybe another breath and say, okay, I'm going to proceed. Okay, I'm going to straighten my work area up a little bit. I'm going to stretch a little bit. And then I'm going to proceed with intent. So again, don't just think studying is about study, 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 cram, cram, cram everything in. It's really about being relaxed as you study so you absorb the most. And so really honor what your body is saying and what your mind is saying.